down some food.
Yeah, that's true.
I can put down some food, buddy. Trust me.
I'm not that tall. And I put down food.
Put down some food. All right. Eliot Shorr-Parks, 94 WIP. We're going to keep it cordial and professional today. We know we hate Philadelphia, but we got the last laugh last season.
It really doesn't mean much, though, in retrospect.
No, it doesn't mean a damn thing. But
it felt good.
We always have this from Eliot Shorr-Parks.
No, I mean, they're just overrated. And I think it's pretty simple. And you'll say it's beyond this and it's not. But no, it's this simple. 49ers don't have a quarterback. And that's all that matters in the NFL. You can talk to me about how good their roster is and their defensive line. They do have a good defense. And how they have some weapons on offense. They do have weapons. If you don't have a quarterback, it does not matter. So when I look at the other contenders going into the season, right? Like in the AFC, obviously tons of loaded quarterbacks there. You look at the Eagles, they have Jalen Hurts, almost won MVP last year. The 49ers have a good roster, but if you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't matter. So when I project who's a real contender this year, I cannot take a team led with no quarterback as a serious contender.
Eliot Shorr-Parks joins us on the River Islands guest line here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game. And Eliot, you're a good sport for coming back on. You were a good sport last season. You're a hell of a guest. You do a great job out there in Philadelphia. That's all the compliments I'm giving you this morning. Say, do you believe the Niners now have a quarterback a year later?
Man, I was so close. I should have said head coach. I meant to not say quarterback. I should have said head coach, right? Because he got exposed again in the Super Bowl with that decision in overtime. So the analysis was correct. I just misspoke there.
Hey, listen, you and I, we could have lunch over to head coach. He drives me crazy at times. I'm not going to lie to you. He does. He really does. And we look at all these big game losses, and it's a direct correlation to Mr. Kyle Shanahan. But
Absolutely.
a year later, we're looking at Philadelphia. You guys got off to a roaring start, 10-1. You had a great game against Buffalo at home. That was one of the games of the year in the NFL.
In the rain.
In the rain. The Monday night game at Kansas City, Arrowhead Stadium. I won some money on that game. How is it looking in Philadelphia after the way the season ended? A wild card loss to Tampa Bay. Rumors about the head coach. Rumors about Belichick. Where is Philadelphia at now as you guys open up training camp out there in Philadelphia?
Well, I'll say this, and I'll give the Niners credit. I mean, they came in and basically dismantled the Eagles season with what they did in Philadelphia. Debo backed it up with the big game. And really since then, the question in Philadelphia has been, which Eagles team is it? Is it the team over the final 7 games of the year where they were arguably the worst team in the NFL? They lost to the Giants. They weren't competitive in the playoffs. Or are they the team from the previous 25, 30 games, whatever it was, where they kind of just ran through the NFL and nearly won a Super Bowl? So going into the season, it's kind of that question. They definitely have talent. They have one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. The quarterback has played at a high level. The head coach almost won a Super Bowl. But there's the worry that maybe this thing's just broken. And once it's broken, it's hard to get put back together. So they'll go to training camp tomorrow. There will be questions about the relationship between Jalen and Nick, and they'll get on a flight to Brazil for week 1 and see how good the team can actually be.
What a weird sentence. Get on a flight to Brazil for week 1.
To play the
It's just
Packers.
crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
Are you going to that game? Are you going to Brazil? You got your passport ready?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, look, anytime I can get a free week in Brazil, 3 days in Rio, I'll sign up for that. So,
Elliot,
I'll be there for it.
This may be a little personal, but are you single?
I'm not. I'm married, and she's coming on the trip. So,
My fiance will probably do the same thing. She ain't letting me go to Miami, Colombia, Brazil by myself whatsoever.
Yeah.
Not Las Vegas
I'm just excited to be on the beach with her. It'll be a great time. Yeah.
You referenced Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. I thought Jalen was spectacular. The year you guys went to the Super Bowl, he was spectacular in that Super Bowl, even though there was some turnovers that people have been opining for 16, 17, 18 months now. What happened last year? Because it felt like his leg wasn't right. I know that some was, out there to the public. Some wasn't. He wasn't running the same way. What happened to the quarterback last year that they had such a drop-off?
So I really don't think the injury had much to do with it. I'm not going to say nothing because a part of his game is running, and he was hampered by that. But to me, what happened last year was the NFL adjusted to Jalen. And you see this with a lot of great quarterbacks. I mean, I'll compare it a little bit to a pitcher in baseball. Like the first time you go through the league, you don't have the advantage of surprise. The second time around, they have tape on you. They can adjust. They know what you're going to do. And I think that's what happened with Jalen. I think a lot of the issues Jalen had were pre-snap. He was blitzed a ton last year. He was, especially at the end of the year, and in that playoff game, he was blitzed a ton, and he couldn't handle it. I thought he was bad in the pocket. I thought he was risky with the football. Jalen doesn't have, I don't think, like the most elite arm in the league. So where he's successful and where he was successful in 2022 was taking care of the ball. In 2023, that completely went away. He was one of the most turnover-prone quarterbacks in the NFL. So I think going into this year, the big question is going to be, can he pre-snap, diagnose the blitz? Can he see it coming? Can he be smarter with the football? Because if he can, then he has the weapons to be really good. But yeah, I think that's what happened. And, I think in San Francisco, it's something with Purdy you have to worry about a little bit. Just, now that he's had a full year as a starter, that adjustment is really hard going into that third year.
We'll get to Purdy in just a second. Eliot Shorr-Parks, River Island's guest line here on the Morning Rush on 95.7 The Game. Eliot Shorr-Parks, Eagles reporter for 94 WIP podcast, also Go Birds pod, excuse me. You lost Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox. Yeah. How do they replace those two veterans who are going to walk into the Pro Football Hall of Fame one day?
I don't think you do. And, that's what the team will say. And obviously it's what you always say when you lose a great player. But the reality is the Eagles have been a great team over the past few years because of their lines. They've had good skill players and that all matters. But at the end of the day, they have had great offensive lines and they've had great defensive lines. And by losing Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox, the middle of that field, the middle of the defensive line, the middle of the offensive line are major questions. So they brought in Saquon, they have AJ, they have Devontae. I mean, they have arguably the best skill players in the NFL just looking at those positions. But if the center of that offensive line is a problem, and I just talked about Jalen's issue with the blitz, teams are it's not going to matter who's at receiver because they're just going to come right up the middle and Jalen's not going to be able to handle it. So I think in terms of replacing them, they're going to go with Cam Jurgens, who played guard last year, was drafted to play a center. And then obviously they have Jalen Carter at one of the defensive tackle spots, but Jordan Davis, the other defensive tackle, has, been somewhat of a bust so far in the NFL. So yeah, it is definitely a major question for this team.
So on paper, because I think adding Saquon is a great fit. It's just on a variety of levels.
I love that move.
I mean, he's going to be a top fantasy player. I feel like, obviously he's got to stay healthy. He's a monster. Are they better on paper? You made some great picks with some of the secondary guys in the draft. Mm-hmm. I like them all. We'll see if they can be players.
Cooper DeJean?
I love a white DB. Come on, I admit that.
No, we love Cooper. I love Cooper. I got no problem with the white DB.
But linebacker's a problem. I thought that you guys couldn't cover our tight ends and our running backs, and that ended up playing itself out. Are they better on paper this year as opposed to the beginning of last year?
Man, it's such a great question because I do think there's an argument on paper they're better. They brought in Devin White, who had a down year last year for Tampa, but for the first 2 or 3 years of his career was one of the best linebackers in the NFL, extremely athletic. He looked really good in the practices I've seen, so they've probably upgraded there. They drafted a lot of defensive backs, which is exciting, but you have no idea if they'll be good. I hate to do this, but I'll kind of quote myself, from what you did at the beginning of the interview. You don't have a quarterback, it doesn't matter. And so why I think they are better, why they are better out on paper. This time last year, Jalen Hurts was arguably the second best quarterback in the NFL or top 5, whatever you wanted to do. Now, was he top 10? So I don't know if I can say they're better. And I can certainly say I don't have as much confidence in them going into this year as I did last year.
Is the coach better, Nick Sirianni?
So I think Nick Sirianni is a great coach. They did upgrade the coordinator spots. They brought in Kellen Moore, who, outside of the McVays and Shanahans who call plays as their head coach, Kellen Moore is probably the most qualified offensive coordinator in the league.
Let me stop you for a second before you continue. Did you feel like that when he was calling plays for the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, for sure. They had one of the best offenses in the league when he was there. So I think Kellen is maybe projecting to be a great coordinator and maybe never a head coach. Obviously, if he does well here, he'll probably get interviews again. Mm-hmm. But as a coordinator, I think he's very good. They brought in Vic Fangio, who, just experience alone should be an upgrade over Matt Patricia, who was awful. So I do think Sirianni, with the right staff around him, is a great head coach. His resume is extremely impressive. But again, it's those last 7 games. They completely cratered and had no answer to fix it whatsoever. So, it would be dishonest for me to go in and say they have an outstanding, no question about a head coach because the last 7 games were really bad.
How loud was the noise about Bill Belichick maybe taking over that job out there in Philadelphia this past offseason?
Yeah, so I think hiring Bill Belichick would be a disaster. I think he is a bad head coach. I would not hire him if I were the Eagles. I don't think any team should hire him, frankly. But it was certainly talked about just because people are really frustrated with Sirianni. And as a result, also frustrated with Jalen. So, last year when I was able to call in, we were feeling good, right? We'd come in, brag, chest. It is not like that now. Like, it is major boom or bust potential here with the Eagles. Like, they could win, 14 games and that roster could be good. Or this time next year, they could have 6-7 wins and everyone's saying they should have hired Belichick. So it was talked about, but I don't think it was ever a serious consideration by the team.
Knowing what you guys know now, because we're going to have to pay our quarterback at some point, is there any regret with the Jalen Hurts contract? Is there something that they could have done different? Is there something that they would want to do different with the whole contract situation with Jalen Hurts?
So it's an interesting question. If they would have waited till this year, his value would not have been as high without question. But he didn't play as well. I mean, the quarterback market always goes up. I guess my advice, if you're asking in relation to Purdy, is I would always just pay these guys at the last second. There's no true value in getting him 2 years early because Purdy, while was way better last year than I expected, you don't know what he'll be this year. And I also think there's an argument that with Shanahan, despite the fact he can't win a big game, like you could put any quarterback in there and I think you could have success. So if I were the Niners, I would be in no rush to pay Purdy. You could franchise him. You could, wait, because ultimately, if you pay a guy too early, like the Eagles might have with Jalen, you're overpaying, as opposed to if you wait a year and you have a more concrete decision where you've seen him more, you've seen him be successful year after year. Yeah, you're paying more, but it's better value for what you're paying. So, yeah, the Eagles probably do regret that deal for sure in terms of doing it a year earlier than they had to.
Obviously, the expectations are high for you guys in Philadelphia. It's high here in San Francisco in the Bay Area for the 49ers. But did the Niners last season with that win, did they finally earn the respect of all Eagle fans, or how are Eagle fans viewing the 49ers coming into this season?
Yeah, I mean, look, I will say this. Purdy is better than I thought, but I still think the Niners are just overrated. Like Shanahan, as I saw in the Super Bowl, made the bad decision. I just don't think Debo is that good. McCaffrey's good, but your best player can't be a running back. So I think the Niners are what they are. They are a nice team. I don't think they are a team that you have to be legitimately afraid of. Like if the Eagles play their A game, they can beat the Niners because the skill players just aren't that good. So going into the year, I think they're decent, but no, I'm not like afraid of the big bad Niners.
So you think Brandon Ayuk's just a decent wide receiver?
Well, he's better than Debo for sure, but he may not even be there. So we'll
Debo
see
scored 3 touchdowns. Did you watch the receiver, Doc? Wait 1 second. Did you watch it?
No, he was at the game.
I know.
Hat trick. Did you throw a hat on the field for Debo Samuel?
Did he wave bye specifically to you on that 3rd touchdown when you were leaving the stadium?
Debo was awesome in that game. He is an outstanding gadget player that Shanahan is able to take advantage of. But he is not a number 1 receiver. Like I wouldn't pay him number 1 receiver money. And also, I'll say this about the Niners. You guys are feeling good now. Wait till you have to come off losing a Super Bowl. Like it is tougher than you think. So when I look at the NFC, I just cross the Niners off as a contender because there's no shot coming off a Super Bowl you'll be able to get back and win it. No shot.
Well, look, we went through it in 2020 and obviously 2013 as well. Going back a little farther, it is very difficult to lift yourself up off the mat and even try to get into the playoffs, let alone
and we're
go
struggling.
Deep in the playoffs.
Trust me, training camp opens tomorrow. We can't get over the Super Bowl.
Frauds after losing on the final play of overtime in a Super Bowl. That feels a little like haterade there, doggy.
You guys were close, but close doesn't count. The Eagles were close, and they got boat raced last year by you guys and embarrassed in the playoffs. So I think like going off of last year's Super Bowl to project this year really doesn't mean anything. Like I don't care.
You did lose Shane Steichen. Like admit now, if you had the opportunity to hire Shane Steichen
and Gannon
over
defense coordinator
Sirianni the boob. I mean, come on, you would have redone that.
No, I absolutely would not. Sirianni is a better head coach than either of those two, I think. And I did yes, they mishired with Patricia for sure. And Brian Johnson, we could get into a long debate about that. What really happened is Jalen played poorly last year. Like that's what happened. Jalen fell apart at the end of the year. So no, I still think Sirianni, I would take him over Shanahan for sure if I had a selection. So I absolutely think you guys are going too far in the criticism of Sirianni off last year.
I know you said a running back can't be your best player. Is Saquon Barkley already the best offensive player for the Philadelphia Eagles this year? Because you could make that argument.
No, I don't think you can because A.J. Brown is the best offensive player on the team, and that's who they'll run the offense through. He's a legitimate number 1 receiver, unlike, Debo and Ayuk. But the Niners have to run their offense through McCaffrey. Like, he makes them go. And again, like Saquon will help the team, but they will not run the offense through Saquon. And that's the major difference.
A.J. Brown last year against the 49ers. Oh, he had 8 catches, 114 yards. A lot of garbage time numbers.
Yeah, but he had to help peel DeAndre Swift off the floor at the end of that game.
Devontae Smith.
I'll admit, you guys got him. You guys got him.
All right, Elliot.
Hey, Elliot, the most important thing is, are we still hated, the two of us in Philadelphia?
Honestly, like, yes, for sure. I was actually surprised how hated you guys were. Like, it was a week or two, especially after you guys did what you did to the Eagles. Like, it made it even worse. So, maybe in the NFC Championship game, you guys will come to Philly this year, and that'll be a good rematch.
Yeah, that would be fun. I'll be in Philadelphia actually for a wedding later on this summer. Braves are playing the Phillies. I'm deciding whether or not to wear my Giants jersey. Nah, I'm not going to wear a Giants jersey. I may wear my Niners jersey out there.
That Jock Peterson
No, I'm not wearing the Jock.
Yeah, no one cares about the Giants, so
no, we don't even care about the Giants.
Elliot, those City Connects for Philly, you have great uniforms for the Phillies, like just in general. Those City Connects are hideous.
It's just hard to hear you be wrong about everything, but you're just dead wrong about those. Those City Connects are fire. Like, what do you? The hat is fire with the bell on it.
You're such a hipster, man. Jesus Christ,
you're swagger, man. We got to get you some swag, dog.
Jesus.
We gonna hook you up before you go to Brazil, man. We can't have you going out there like Willie Lump Lump, dog. Come on, man.
Dude, as long as I look good for my wife from Brazil, that's all that'll matter.
Gosh.
We might get lucky.
All good.
Well, if you're lucky, you won't have to play the 49ers this year. If you're lucky.
No, thanks for coming back on.
So it's all good.
Thanks for coming back on. I just think the City Connects across the country have been terrible.
They're terrible.
And
Elliot,
I love the Phillies jerseys.
Good stuff as always, Elliot. Good luck out there
buddy.
this year.
Yep. Talk to you soon.
All right, Eliot Shorr-Parks, 94 WIP in Philadelphia, courtesy of the River Islands guest line.
Sirianni over Shanahan.
We could be civil with Philadelphia, guys. Hey, it's just fine. It's fine. They could be delusional.
No, but like, let's have a real conversation.
Sirianni over Shanahan. That's what he wants.
What? Okay, open competition. All right, we're just doing open. We're doing an open draft right now in the league.
Took him 15 minutes, by the way, to finally start pushing back a little bit. Just took him 15 minutes.
Yeah. Andy Reid's going number 1 overall.